So I've now read two Kingfisher stories, and I think these are a great start. They're both very good fantasy stories. Minor Mage is about a 12-year-old boy who goes on an impossible quest with his armadillo familiar. And Nettle and Bones is about, well, you could say a minor princess because she's the third princess in a very small kingdom and she's sent to live in a convent. So she doesn't really live or enjoy the privileges of being a princess. And she is also on an impossible quest to help her sister. They both have no clue how to achieve their goals, and it seems like it's nearly impossible, but along the way, they make allies, they make friends that help them out. Now, Minor Mage is more of a classic, straightforward fantasy quest story. It reads like a children's tale. The only reason it's not is because there's a bit of dark magic in here, but really the best fairy tales, the best fantasy stories have a bit of darkness in them. So there's a bit of dark magic in here, but I think it's a great middle grade read. It's 176 pages, short, straightforward, zero romance, 100% fantasy adventure. Now, Nettle and Bones is a more complex story. There are more characters. It alternates between the present and the past. It begins telling the story from the present point of view, what Mara is doing at the moment, but then it jumps back to her childhood, her teenage years, and then her adulthood. Now, there are trigger warnings here for domestic abuse, miscarriage, the loss of a child, but they are not detailed. It's definitely the main incentive for Mara to go on this quest, but it's not detailed. There is a hint of romance in Nettle and Bones, but I would say a hint. Like, there's nothing in detail either. I don't know why I found this one in the adult section of the bookstore. I would say this is a young adult book. 272 pages, so it's a bit longer. It's a more complex world because we see a glimpse of it in the goblin market, where you see a lot of different magical creatures. Now, this one has a bit of a slow start. Maybe both of them have a bit of a slow start, but this one takes a little bit longer because it alternates between the present and the past, and we're barely finding out what's going on in this kingdom. But they're both really good stories. And the other great advantage here is they're both standalone fantasy stories. So if you just want a fantasy read fix, either one of these is great because they don't get you hooked into a series that's 10 or 20 books long. They're both standalone fantasy stories just for a quick weekend when you just need something for the weekend and you don't want to get hooked up in a very long series. Now, this is a bit of a more feminist tale if you like female characters. We have a young boy, but they're both underdog characters, and it's very easy to connect with them. They're both very, like I mentioned, humble and unassuming characters. And then the other characters in the story are also very interesting. The villains are very dark. They have to be so that the story is good. So there are some villains that are very, very, we don't know why they're so evil, but they're very dark. So it makes their quest even more exciting. Anyway, I will keep exploring this author. The fantasy weaving is great. The worlds are very interesting. I don't know if she'll ever come back to these stories. Minor Mage was published in 2019. Nettle and Bones was published in 2022. So maybe there's a chance that T. Kingfisher or her real name, Ursula Vernon, might come back to these worlds at some point, because you do want to read a little bit more after you finish the book. You want to find out a little bit more about their worlds. Anyway, I hope you give them a chance. Enjoy reading.